Christmas Wish, as told by Victoria James. The Christmas tree is all decorated and the stocking is hung, but there is only one. She lay there watching the blinking lights of the tree while drinking a glass of Merlot, her favorite for this time of year. The only comfort she is able to have is the warmth of her dog, which looks up with love and contentment of a spoiled pet. She lays and waits as if she is expecting someone who will never come. Dressed in something special, nothing fancy, plain black jeans and a silken white shirt, she sips her wine and rubs her beloved dog. She knows where he's at, but she can't call or drop by and see him. He is with someone. Laying there on her sofa in her decorated home, she begins to daydream of not only their time they were together last, but to the next time they plan to escape. That moment when they can be together again to share all with each other that they have spoken to one another about. The music playing in the background let her mind wander, and she closed her eyes, and her mind drifted off to another time and dimension. "I would love to wrap myself up and place myself under your tree," he said to her. "You know how much I would love to have you under my tree on Christmas morning," she replied. Wanting to undress him as soon as he walked through the door, she didn't want to appear too eager, as if she only wanted to fuck him. She wanted all of him. He brought so much out in her, not just the opening of raw desire that she has never felt before, but inspired her to become the woman she has been hiding for so long. His body brought so much warmth to the surface that she couldn't think of being with anyone else. The smoothness of his skin and the scent it gave off. He didn't have to touch her. His voice and the way he looked at her drove her to unleash her deep-rooted sexual needs and desires for him. His hands on her body, touching her skin, ran chills throughout each nerve in her being. Her lips upon hers, soft and sensual, he couldn't get enough of them. Running his tongue across her lips brought such an exhilaration of energy in her body that could be felt between the two of them as he pulled her close to him. Feeling his arms around her body brought not only warmth, but it also raised such a passion to the surface from the depths of her soul. Returning the embrace, holding him close to her to feel his body, the sexual energy coming from it was so overwhelming and raised such a burning desire deep within her. She could feel it growing from the depths of her being. They shared more than just the need or the needs to explore their sexual avenues with one another. They were connected beyond just the physical sense. Running her hands down his body to pull off his shirt so she could feel his chest, which was smooth and warm. Slowly kissing his neck as they stood close in their embrace, not wanting to let go or to let this moment pass. He reached down, pulling her shirt out of her pants and over her head and undoing her bra, letting the strap slide down her arms and the garment slipping from her body so he could feel the fullness of her breasts. Cupping them in his hands as he continued to kiss her with so much pent-up desire that he wanted to show her through just his lips. Their lips not parting from each other, letting their tongues explore through this oral sensation, raising the amount of passion from deep within them to new heights. They never had a problem showing each other the amount of complete desire they had for one another, whether it be through the physical part or through just verbal communication. Able to touch every level of their minds and bodies, wants and needs. Feeling his mustache on her face as he began to move his lips down to her neck, she closed her eyes to bring all her senses to the surface, taking in his smell and letting her mind wander and awaken her deep-rooted raw desires she wanted to share with him. This was just going to be the beginning of something new and different for both of them. Kissing her neck, he could feel her body relax in his arms as he continued to embrace her and hold her tight. He didn't want to let go of this moment of pure sexual desire. His cock began to get so hard in his pants that he knew he would have to let it out before it became painful for him. As if on cue, she reached down and undid his pants to pull his erect cock out to stroke it. Still kissing her neck, he said to her in between breaths, "I love how you stroke my cock. I really enjoy feeling your hands on me." Stopping to look at her, gazing deeply into her eyes, they spoke more than just sexual desire, but of pure want and much more. Releasing his arms from her as she moved down to begin to suck on his cock, she began by slowly licking it and stroking it, letting her mouth and tongue work on him as he always enjoyed feeling her do and as he has told her so. She found so much pleasure in sucking his cock and was taking her time in this step of foreplay. He ran his hands through her long dark hair as she licked and sucked his member. The total feeling of warmth of her mouth and tongue brought him to a new height of ecstasy as she toyed with his cock in her mouth. The warmth of her mouth made him think of how wet her pussy must be right now. Pulling her back up to him, letting their lips meet, he whispered to her, "I want to lick your pussy." He reached down and undid her pants, and she pushed him down her legs, neither wanting to release the grip of their lips on each other. She had to pull herself away to complete the task. Seating herself on the sofa, he knelt down in front of her, pulling her pants from her legs, and he could see that she had on a red thong for the holiday, knowing she wore it just for him. Once her pants were removed, he also finished the removal of his pants, so now he was free of all clothing. Only one last garment remained to rid themselves of, and it was that bright red thong. Grabbing the sides of her panties, he slid them off her legs, exposing her freshly shaven pussy that he couldn't wait to taste. Not wasting time, he spread her legs and let his tongue begin to explore the outer lips of her pussy. Slowly, he ran his tongue across her until he found her clit. Pressing his tongue against it, he slowly flicked it with the tip of his tongue. Using his fingers to massage her pussy, he began to finger fuck her while letting his tongue move across her. The wetness came immediately. She didn't have to climax, but she was so aroused from sucking on his cock that her pussy was already wet, and all it needed was his fingers to let the juices flow from her. Her body became relaxed and at the same time tensed up with the sensation that his mouth and fingers were giving her. So deep within her was the rawness of pure sexual desire that needed to be fulfilled, and it could only be satisfied by him. She knew it would take only minutes before she would climax and come, which would be the first of many orgasms. Letting his lips pass over her pussy so softly, he knew exactly what to do to bring her to the point of no return. His mustache grazed her shaven pussy lips, giving her a heightened awareness of the sensitivity, which was more than she could stand. Bringing her the pleasure of his mouth on her pussy made her body shiver with delight. With all the stimulation he was giving her between his lips, tongue, and finger, he could tell by the amount of wetness in her pussy that she wasn't far from climaxing, and he was taking his time enjoying himself. She could not hold on much longer to the grips of this pleasure that he was giving her, and she was enjoying. She let out such a feeling of sexual release as she came with force and volume in wetness and verbal. "Don't stop, Jay, I'm coming," she stated between bated breaths as he continued to work on her wet pussy, moving his tongue over her clit and not only licking her, but letting his tongue lap at her juices as they flowed from her. He enjoyed every spasm of her pussy on his finger as it moved in and out of her. He knew he could bring her to the brink, and it was obvious he took pleasure in doing so. His cock was throbbing with want to feel the depth and warmth of her pussy, especially now that she had come and it was dripping wet. He had to feel her pussy wrapped around his cock to share that raw sexual energy they possessed. Stopping from licking her pussy, he bent forward to kiss her as she was still leaning backwards on the sofa where he had placed her. Keeping their lips locked in a manner that only those that possess such deep-rooted sexual passion and desire do, he didn't want to let go of those lips. His cock continued to throb and ache, wanting to feel her warmth. Without even thinking, he grabbed a hold of his cock and rubbed it slowly against her pussy lips as he continued to kiss her, knowing that this action also drove her to the brink of orgasm. He slowly let the head of the cock penetrate the lips of her pussy, just letting her feel it throb. Kissing so deeply with each other, locked in the clench of sexual passion, he thrust his cock into her with one quick motion, letting her feel the full extent of his need for her. She came immediately with this action, and the floodgates opened up on his cock as it penetrated her up to his balls. The warmth of her pussy excited him, and he began to move his hips into her as she gyrated herself to meet each motion of his. Not able to get enough of each other, their bodies meshed together as one. Neither of them wanted to let go of their arms grasping at each other's bodies, or their lips upon each other's mouths, still clenching to one another. It was a long time of physical motion between the two of them before she came again. With full enjoyment of each other's bodies, they engulfed this moment of passion and pure ecstasy that they shared. "Your pussy feels so good around my cock, Victoria," he said in her ear, as their breathing matched each other in unison. She ran her feet up the sides of his legs, taking in every inch of his body with them, and also with her hands. Eventually wrapping her legs around his hips and pulling him into her as he continued the motion of his cock penetrating her. She too couldn't get enough of him, an unquenchable desire that they shared from the depths of their souls that was expressed through their physical want. Feeling her legs wrapped around him and the scent and feel of her skin exhilarated him even to a higher level of desire. Her pussy was so wet from coming the multiple times that he could feel that his cock couldn't take much more. No matter how hard he tried to hold back from releasing his own load deep within her, he knew it wouldn't take much longer. He loved fucking her. The warmth, the desire, and the passion shared was like no other. Unmeasurable. Wrapping his arms around underneath of her and pulling her close to him as if they were more than becoming one in this act of pure desire, he thrust his cock as deep as it would go, and she let out such a cry of pure ecstasy at his action and stated, "Fuck me, Jay. That's it. Fuck me. I'm coming," while squeezing him tighter with her legs, almost as if they were morphing into one. With one final motion, he thrust his cock as far as it would go, coming at the same time as her, pulling and grabbing at each other as if their lives depended upon the sexual need they had. They couldn't get enough of one another's body. Panting and sweaty, they both held on, like a life preserver for each other, as if to let go would mean a fatal action. Grasping to him, her legs still wrapped around his hips and his arms still holding her tightly. Their lips still locked, they held on to that moment. This moment, to etch it into each other's mind, storing it to memory, burned there forever. The clock struck midnight, and it jolted her from her daydream. Still holding her glass of wine, she got up from the sofa and went to bed, with her dedicated dog following her, holding on to that Christmas wish in her mind. Merry Christmas.